So I've met families who grow the same plant generation after generation after generation. Growing up in NorCal, like, you know, man, like we used to back in the like 90s, 2000s, we're stayed pretty true to a certain group of genetics. But in the last few decades, it's been runts and Skittles and GMO and every kind of cookies and every kind of cake and every kind of ice cream that you can imagine. So I have such a huge respect for someone who has learned how to grow these specific genetics, like this specific plant, not this plant, but then this plant crossed with that plant next year and then that plant. I mean, all of them are very unique. As a grower myself, like I have a huge respect for these guys that just pump out new stuff every year because, again, like it's tough to learn one type of plant, let alone a different variant of it every season, you know?
Yeah, and one thing that I find is when you're crossing and when you're starting to bring in new genetics into the plant, you start to see characteristics of that other plant that you crossed down the line of cloning. You see, because like I haven't been I'm not a breeder. I haven't bred yet, but I've done a lot of research and I've cloned and I've been growing for a long time. Well, I had this one plant, this OG Chem, and it's a cross of Chem Dog and OG Kush, right? Chem Dog and OG Kush. Well, when I would clone it, and I did it for like, I'd say about 4 or 5 runs, I kept cloning it. Characteristics of the mother and the father would start to come out of these clones, right? And so you would get one that's not as tall, one's shorter, one's bushier, more OG than it is sativa side, you know? And I just think it's fascinating. It is fascinating, absolutely fascinating how we could just add genetics in, but then they pop in here, you know, not when you're expecting it or whatever. But over there in Oahu, if they're keeping the OG strains, then they probably still got the weed that still smells like skunks, right? Because that weed is almost gone nowadays.
Yeah, they still have. You still, you know, some of the older, like the Maui Wowie and Pineapple Express and stuff we know from yesteryear, they are bringing in some of the newer stuff, the cat piss type. But, you know, they do stay pretty true. They don't get too exotic, which is cool.